Hello, Void. Viewers is back once more, and, well, sometimes the unexpected happens when you gamble, and sometimes you get exactly what you expect when you gamble. Now, I've referenced it several times that I pull a lot of random movies out of the Dollar Tree. Every so often, I go in and I'll find something I was already looking for, like when my review for VHS, pulled that one out of there. Movies never thought I'd expect, like Troll Hunter, another very good film. Or classics, like Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Well, I think it's a classic. Anyway, other times you pull bottom of the barrel stuff, like Bad Nun, or this collection of 8 terrible sounding shark movies. This one's gonna be fun. But that's not what I'm here to talk about today. I mentioned I'm a sucker for collections. 8 shark movies for $1? Okay. But that's a different day. Today, I'm going to be talking about Night Shift, which is actually a pleasant surprise. I'd never heard of this film. I know nothing about this one going into it, other than apparently it's apparently an Irish-British collaboration. I learned that while watching it. I did not know that beforehand. So, I knew nothing going in. And, okay movie, I enjoyed this one. I had no idea what to expect. But my expectations were kind of low, because a lot of the ones that you've never heard of, well... But then again, Gongjiam Haunted Asylum, that was one that I had never heard of, and I did love that one. So, Night Shift was another pleasant surprise. Now, I won't say it was as good as Gongjiam, but it's definitely up there. In terms of decent quality for what seems to be not very much budget. Now, I guess this one would be most comparable to my recent review of The Innkeepers, because now that I'm thinking about it, has a little bit of a similar initial setup, but the similarities really don't stick around from there. So, this one stars an American girl who's studying in Ireland, and she's gets a job at the night shift. And it's at a hotel where there was terrible murders in the past, and, well, things gonna happen. What I like about this movie is how it's paced and kind of the build-up, because it doesn't really dive right into everything. It just sort of lets it build. You do start with an initial scene of a killer doing his thing, but from there, it doesn't just dive right in. You start following the main girl around as she's getting ready for her classes. What you first get is her making an offhand comment to one of her professors that she's going to be working, and he just kind of makes it, oh, well, if you want to look into then since you're going to be looking into history of the area, but then his phone rings and he has to take a call and doesn't really finish. But it's one of those. It started leading up that people know about something going on there, and her coworker gives her a little bit of shit about it also, about the murders of this place, but she doesn't believe in it. So it doesn't dive right in. And I like that. I mean, once it starts going, it goes from 0 to 100 real quick, but it works for it. So, she's then. I will say, if anything, it does try a little bit too hard to start building things up, because it does, but it doesn't commit to a lot of them. More on that later, though. Anyway, she gets to her job, and, well, at first everything seems fine until she gets accosted by the other guy at the desk refers to as a homeless person out in the in the garage, and, well, ever since then things just start going weird, particularly when she goes up to the 5th floor. The guests there either seem strange, or, well, the staff of the other staff up there isn't really responsive. Not that there's supposed to be staff up there. And then when the lights go out, and the killer starts restalking the halls, essentially the hotel gets caught in a loop of that terrible night, and well, she is now pulled into that loop where she cannot escape. So, I will say there's some things I did like about this one. Then how it handles the loop, as well as her increasing desperation to escape it and trying to deal with everything going on. Plus, you're never quite sure who to trust or what's real or what's ghostly manifestation. That's all done well. The movie does a decent job at building up some suspense. It is a lower budget film, so there isn't a lot there for terms of gore effects, but none that really hurt it. In fact, it's better than anything that's throwing CGI blood at you, so it doesn't get to the point of being bad, but there's clearly not much budget, so they don't really go too far into it. Another downside is, like I said, it seems to be trying too hard to set some things up without some follow-through. The main girl has some part of that, as early on she's described as being afraid of the dark, a very intense noctophobia, I can never remember. Anyway, like to the point where she leaves the lights on in her flat the entire time, even when she's not there, because she doesn't want to come home to a dark house. Okay, fine. When she's early on the job, she doesn't like going into this dark area, then gets a flashlight later. Cool. But that's about as far as they go with it. Even once the hotel starts messing with her and starts turning the lights off, she really doesn't react much past that, so it's an interesting detail that they don't follow through on. I mean, yeah, she's scared when the lights first go off, but not any more than anyone else would be to somebody walking out there and, oh, it's this lit hallway is suddenly dark. Particularly when everything else is going on, she's not really overreacting to the darkness any more than anyone else would be. It gets to a point where she doesn't even seem to be registering that it's dark. She's just scared of everything else. So it was really an unnecessary detail. They tried to give her some development, but it just didn't go anywhere. Another thing that did work is kind of the rapport between her and her co-worker, as they kind of have this hot and cold, whether or not they like each other or not, as they're just meeting each other, and they have decent enough chemistry that you're interested in watching them. It does remind me a little bit again of The Innkeepers, but I think that's just how closely together I watched these movies. I'm not sure exactly when this one came out. I think it's 2018, so it was a few years after The Innkeepers. But I don't believe it was deliberately trying to pull too much of a comparison. It's really a different flavor, as that one's a very subtle haunting. This one is the ghost of a knife-wielding maniac. Especially as you get these walkie-talkie calls, and you're not sure if it's her friend at the front desk, or the killer, or both. So it does an interesting job there. And the ending does have a decent payoff with it. At first I wasn't sure how it was going to, but it does a good job with it. Overall, I had low expectations on this one, but I'm giving it a 3 MacGuffins. It's solid enough, and I do recommend checking it out. It's not great by any means, but considering I paid $1 for it, and some of the movies that I'm going to be watching from that collection, Toxic Shark. This could have been much, much worse. So, yeah, I actually did enjoy this one. So, Night Shift, 3 MacGuffins, I give it a recommendation.